So, as we mentioned, that pride, that covetous, that envy are certain things that are manifested in regards to Babylon consistently and the detailing of her destruction. In verse 12, these are spots in your feast of love. When they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear, clouds they are without water, carried about of winds, trees whose fruit wither without fruit. Twice dead, plucked up by the roots. Well, look at this. He says these are trees that wither without fruit. Let's look at something. Let's see Proverbs 25 real quick. See what that looks like real quick. See if I see the prevalent. But we could take a trip to Luke 13. And since we just mentioned the things, of course, is the fruit. He said these are trees, and we'll sit back and see that again. And after this, Luke 13, go to Genesis chapter 2. (13 and 6). He said, he spake also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and saw fruit thereon, and found none. Then he said unto the dresser of his vineyard, behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Cut it down. Why cumber it to the ground? He answering said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year, till I shall dig it about and dung it. And if it bear fruit, well. And if not, then after that, you shall cut it down. Well, hold on. Well, we don't need to go to Genesis chapter 2. You know, in Genesis 2, we say there were trees in the garden with all manner of fruits for men to be able to partake in. What's the verses that's in my head, man? Oh, Matthew chapter 3. Look at the words of John the Baptist. From Matthew 3 to Ephesians 5. Matthew 3 and 5. Then went out to him Jerusalem and all Yehuda and all the region round about Jordan, and were immersed of him in Jordan, confessing their sins. But when he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees come to his immersion, he said unto them, O generation of vipers, who have warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Bring forth fruits meet for repentance. So your actions have to show forth that you have turned from your transgression. The fruit of your actions. See, there's another thing when it comes to that. I want you to come to Hosea chapter 14. I bought that extra late. 14 and 1. O Yasharal, return unto Yahuwah your Elohim, for you have fallen by your iniquity. See again, so when you're looking at repentance, it's returning to Yahuwah, because you're falling by your lawlessness. Take with you words and turn to Yahuwah and say unto him, take away all iniquity and receive us graciously, so we will render the calves of our lips. Assyria shall not save us. We will not ride upon horses, neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, you are gods. You are our gods, for in you the fatherless find mercy. I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for my anger is turned away from them. I will be as dew unto Yasharal. He shall grow as a lily and cast forth his roots as Lebanon. His branches shall spread, his beauty shall be as an olive tree, and his smell Lebanon. And they shall dwell under his shadow, and they shall return, and they will revive as the corn and grow as the vine, and the scent thereof shall be as the wine of Lebanon. So notice again, he's referring to what is the benefit of taking and coming and returning. You have to bring forth fruits meet for repentance. This is basically a synopsis of what's being stated. Let's come back to Matthew chapter 3. Verse 8, verse 9, he say, think not to say within yourselves, we have Abraham to our Abba. For I say unto you that Elohim is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham. So again, that's the point. And this is why I've always said that in the regards of Yahuwah don't need you to build no nation, because he said he can do that out of stones unto Abraham. You have to remember that key point. He told Abraham in the law that he would make him a father of many nations, that he would build him a nation out of Abraham, a nation meaning a people. He does not need our assistance in that regard. That's why John the Baptist is telling him that. Don't even look to say that. Because he can make children, he can raise them up a people. That's nothing. That is nothing for Yahuwah. That is absolutely nothing. He say now also the axe is laid unto the root of the trees. Therefore, every tree which bring not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Well, what is good fruit according to the text? Hamashiach has already stated that a good tree can't bring forth corrupt fruit, and a corrupt tree can't bring forth good fruit. So let's just take a look at Ephesians. That's why that was dangerous. Yes, I did. Thank you for telling me. Galatians 5, my apologies. Galatians 5 and 22. And it says, but the fruit of the Ruach is love, joy, shalom, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith. And we've went over this ad nauseum in the past, so we're not going to go into super great detail right now. But you know that the first attribute, he say, you know, here, O Yasharal, Yahuwah, your Elohim is one, and you ought to love him with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. So a byproduct, remember in Luke 8 and 10, it says, you know, the seed is the word of Elohim. You know, 2 Kings 19:29 tell you got to take root downward to bear fruit upward. Meaning that you're going to have to die with Yahushua HaMashiach to bring forth fruit. Hamashiach told you, except the seed, abide in the ground and abide alone. But if it die, it bring forth much fruit. So a love for Yahuwah has to be manifested and be present. If that love is not present, then that's not bringing forth fruits to where that tree will not be cut down. Well, we've already discussed in the past that the joy of Yahuwah is your strength. So if that is not present, that tree will get cut down. Of course, you're dealing with shalom, and we'll get to that with that shalom shortly. But you already know if you have confusion, disorder, chaos, wickedness, lawlessness, whatever you want to use to describe any type of disorder, then that tree will be cut down. This is one of the reasons why you see Babylon going to be cut down, because there's no fruit there. So when he comes past it, he say, you know what? Dung it. Tear it down to the ground. Long suffering. Of course, you know that's an attribute of Yahuwah. Gentleness, an attribute of Yahuwah. Goodness, an attribute of Yahuwah. And Mashiach already told you in Luke 18, he said, well, when the Son of Man come, will he find faith upon the earth? If those things are not present, how are you going to be able to say you're manifested and producing fruit and don't even believe, trust, and hope in the promises and word of the living Elohim? He going to cut that tree down. Meekness, which is humility. And if you have no self-control, and Hamashiach plainly told you to take up your stake and follow him, and everyone who suffers in the flesh ceases from sin, that they should no longer do the will of the Gentiles, but to live the rest of the time in their flesh doing the will of Elohim, he's going to cut that tree down. Period. And when you see the individuals who he's referring to, and he gave those three examples, pride and covetousness and unbelief, which led to Cain's envy and jealousy, because the children of the flesh persecute the children of the Ruach, as it is this day. This is how these are trees without fruit. Come on back to the Epistle of Jude. Remember, he said these are clouds without water, carried about of winds. That take you back when he say people who, when you're a cloud without water, what are you? You're an individual with no Ruach. So you're carried about with every wind of doctrine and the sleight of cunningness of man who looks to deceive. And you say your trees whose fruit wither, without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots. So how are you twice dead? Who knows how you twice dead? He said you twice dead. Listen to what he said again. He said these are trees whose fruit wither. Ain't no fruit. Twice dead.
They going
to hell. Yeah, they going to hell. But how does they fruit wither? Because their fruits were not the fruits that we just read about, which is the manifestation of his word. Every one of those examples that he says is the fruits of the Ruach can be seen and manifested plainly in the text. And all of them are the attributes of Yahuwah. Every last one of them. With some of them, as mentioned, you can go read in Exodus 34 and Jeremiah 32, where he declares plainly that that's a part of his name. So when you're manifesting, it's more so of, yeah, you have these fruits, but these fruits wither. What makes the fruit wither? Well, let's see what makes the fruit wither. 1 Peter. 1 Peter 2, to be specific. 1 Peter chapter 2, right? Verse 21. Who by him do believe in Elohim that raised him up from the dead and gave him esteem, that your faith and hope might be in Elohim. Seeing you have purified your souls in obeying the truth through the Ruach and the unfeigned love of the brethren, see that you love one another with a pure heart fervently, being born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible, by the word of Elohim, which live and abide forever. For all flesh is as grass, and all the esteem of man as the flowers of grass. The grass wither, and the flower thereof fall away. But the word of Yahuwah endure forever. And this is the word which by the Basar is preached unto you. So when you look at it, he says, hey, whose fruit wither, it's because you are of the flesh. You are the fruit of the son of Adam. You're a son of man. So therefore you wither, which means you're twice dead. Because we know that whosoever sins shall die. So when you look at that, Adam dies because you did not become a son of Elohim, which means that you weren't transformed and they become a celestial being, as stated in 1 Corinthians 15. You're terrestrial, therefore you die again. Well, let's take a look at it. Revelation chapter 20.
Oh, that Peter you read.
1 Peter chapter 1, verse 21. Revelation chapter 20, verse 11. Revelation 20 and 11. And I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and Shamahim fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged every man according to their works. Death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. See, there you go. You ain't got no fruit. See, the fruit that he's manifested. See, your name can't be written in the book of life without the Ruach HaKodesh, because the Ruach HaKodesh is what makes you a member of his body. Remember, his members were already written in the book, according to Psalms 139, before his members were ever fashioned. So when you don't have that evidence of the word of Elohim being present in you, because you are as flesh is as grass, and you will wither away because you're terrestrial. So therefore you don't have anything eternal in you to endure, and therefore you will be burnt up. So therefore you are twice dead. Not only are you dead in the flesh, but you dead in the Ruach. That's a dangerous place to be. Come on back to the Epistle of Jude. And then you see how he say plucked up by the roots, because you know Mashal told you in the 15th chapter of Matthew that every tree which his heavenly Father has not planted shall be rooted up. He gonna get rid of you. Period. Raging waves of, this is verse 13, raging waves of the sea, foaming out of their own shame, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, the Lord come with 10,000 of his chesed, to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly, among them all of their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and all of their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Which we already know the beast has already blasphemed the name of Elohim and his tabernacle. And you know, many people have very hard and harsh. I seen a dude going in the day, Israelites hate Egyptians. They hate Egyptians because Egyptians got big black cocks. This is this man's words. Reading out Ezekiel 16 and 24, if I'm not mistaken, how it says that they're great of flesh, and it can translate to someone who has a very large sex member. And he was reading the things that actually in Ezekiel 16 are pertaining to Yasharal committing idolatry, to thinking that that really has something to do with Yahuwah being jealous that Egyptians had large penises. Do you know how simple of a man that you have to believe that a Ruach, the creator of all things, would be jealous of an individual that he created sex organ? But individuals believe this, and this is just an example of hard speeches that ungodly sinners speak against him. They speak against him because they hate the standard that he stands for. Everybody take all the Bible fake, this, that, there, and the third. Well, that's your opinion, brother. Why are you spending so much time and energy on somebody you don't believe is real? If you believe individuals are simpletons and pure and utter idiots and fools for following such things, why do you concern yourself with it? Just flat out doesn't make any sense. Nevertheless, back to Isaiah 13. Isaiah 13 and 4. Listen what it says. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of the nations gathered together. Yahuwah of hosts mustered the host of battle. We've already seen that. Revelation 17, he said he gathered all the nations up. He telling you this. This ain't referring to what occurred during the time of Babylon when we went in the first time. Isn't what he says. And you who are willing will take a pause. Y'all willing will come back soon. Because we don't want to detour off the main thing we're doing in Proverbs, but I know there'll be a proverb that'll come up. Y'all willing to do it. But we'll come back to Daniel 11 for some of these instances of these people gathering up. It says, they come from a far country, from the end of Shamahim, even Yahuwah, the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. Howl you, for the day of Yahuwah is at hand, and it shall come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. They shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrow shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travail, and they shall be amazed one at another, and their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of Yahuwah come, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Now come on to Psalms 104. We read that on Wednesday too in Matthew 13. He said he'll get out of his kingdom everyone that offend and do iniquity. He said he's gonna get all the sinners from up out of there. You know what I'm saying? And truth be told, in the eyesight of Yahuwah, where there is no Ruach HaKadosh, all he sees is a sinner. That's all he sees. We need to sit back and understand that and consider. Psalms 104 and 24. See, those conversations, people want to hear that. See, everybody want to deal with the fact that let's build a nation. Let's wake our people up. And that's all well and dandy. But we got to make sure that people receive that Ruach and that they get out of their sins. Because then the other two things are not going to matter. Because the person is still going to perish. That is not diminishing what you talk. That's not diminishing telling somebody, hey, man, you're an Israelite. Who is your God? You might want to return to him in faith in Yahushua and deliver your soul. You know what? Let's take ourselves and our resources and let's pull ourselves together and work as a unit. That's outstanding. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if the people are still mired in their sins and are still breathless, you're going to do all of that for nothing because the people are still going to perish. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what you have to, you just have to have proper perspective. You know what I'm saying? You just got to have proper perspective. Yeah, absolutely. It's going and not necessarily, it could collapse, but he also could allow it to be fruitful and expand out and grow. But the people are still going to perish because the need for everlasting life is not present. You know what I'm saying? It's just perspective. That's it. Because there's nothing wrong with either of those two mathematical equations, if you will. But if you omit the Ruach HaKodesh from that algebraic formula, everybody's going to be looking up twice dead because they're going to be fruit that are going to wither. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to be twice dead. And at that point, it didn't profit them. Remember what the Mashal said, right? He said, in vain they do worship me. Do not think that knowing you an Israelite and building a community can be vain servitude or worship to him if it is not according to the plan that he laid out. And then you're doing that. Because it has to be according to his plan. If it's not according to his plan, it's worthless. And you're not going to get a reward. Because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be after everlasting life above all things. Because everything in this life is temporal. Let me just go ahead and grab this Isaiah 51 before I read this Psalm 104. And this is why I say this here. And I've had this perspective from the moment I read this verse right here and understood exactly what it meant. And Lil Muffin will know what I'm about to ask y'all to do. Isaiah 51:4, if you buy a window, I didn't want you to look out the window and look at the sky above you for a moment, if you could. Would you like to look at the sky? You probably done this before. I can't see it. It's pretty dark out there. Isaiah 51:4 says, hearken unto me. So he said, listen, Shema unto me, O my people, and give ear unto me, O my nation. For a Torah shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. Where I remember I talked to your homeboy that like little booty hole that done disappeared from off the face of the earth. And I remember he got upset about that. He said, how is this verse related to Yahushua? Well, he told you in John chapter 8, he said, I proceed from my Father. I come not of myself. He gave you a law, an instruction, if you will. It proceeded right from him. And that was his judgment on what was right and wrong to rest for a light for the people, because Yahushua told you that he was the light of the world and he came to give light, and in him was light, and light was the life of men. But look at what else he say. My righteousness is near. My salvation is gone forth. My arm shall judge the people. The owl shall wait upon me. And on my arm shall they trust. Well, he done sat back and told them Gentiles going to wait for him. But that's another conversation for another day. But here it is right here. He said, lift up your eyes to the heavens above. He said, lift up your eyes to Shamahim and look at the earth beneath. For the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. So when you understand that this man say that the heavens above is going to vanish away like smoke, and the earth beneath is going to wax old like a garment, then you will understand that everyone that dwell therein is going to die in the same fashion. You will begin to understand the vitalness of obtaining the Ruach of the living Elohim and delivering your soul from death. He said, but my salvation shall be forever, which goes to how you see that you won't be twice dead nor wither, as we read in 1 Peter. And my righteousness shall not be abolished. Hearken unto me, you that know righteousness, the peoples in whose heart is my Torah. Fear you not the reproach of men, neither be you afraid of their reviling. Now look at what he told you. Now let's go to Romans chapter 10, because he said you need to listen to me, those that know righteousness, whose word is in my heart. So Yahushua is in your heart. So he said you don't need to fear no reproach of men, nor do you need to be caring about their revilings. Romans chapter 10 to Luke chapter 12. Romans 10 and then Luke 12. Romans 10 and 1. He say, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Elohim is that for Yasharal is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Elohim, but not according to knowledge. And again, that's something that we discussed not too long ago, that we have to come into the unity of the faith unto a perfect man, unto the knowledge of the Son of Elohim. See, we got a good, strong zeal of Elohim, but it's not according to his word. It's according to us. That's what we make the error at. He told you, he said, hearken unto me, you that know righteousness. Listen to what he said. For being ignorant of Elohim's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Elohim. So to see, the thing is you don't want to submit to Yahushua. That's the problem. That's the righteousness of Elohim, whether niggas like it or not. That's what it is. That's what it's going to be. That's what it was from the foundation of the world. That's what it was yesterday. That's what it is today. That's what it's going to be tomorrow. And that's what it's going to be forever. For Hamashiach is the end or the purpose of Torah for righteousness to everyone that believes. Hamashiach is the purpose of the Torah. So if you listen, remember, he say, hearken unto me, you that know righteousness. Means faith come by hearing, hearing come by the word. If you believe, you'll receive the Ruach, and the Ruach will rest upon you. Therefore, you will have no concern with the revilings and reproaches of men. Those things will not concern you. Hamashiach was reviled and reviled not. He was dishonored and dishonored not. See, that's a level of faith. And I'm just referring to what Peter told you. He said that, he committed himself to him who judges righteously. So a lot of individuals ain't to that point, because in their mind, they're going to perceive to be weak. But you know that Yahushua was made strong through his weakness, because individuals can't see that, because as we've stated on numerous occasions, people don't really want to suffer for the word of Elohim. They don't really want to suffer for that. When you look in the text, you can see that with David. You can see that with Elijah. They didn't see no need to have to flex to show forth they were willing to suffer and die for the word if that's what Yahuwah required. So a lot of individuals ain't willing to do that because you want the esteem to come to you. You don't want the esteem to rest on Elohim because it's about you. Luke chapter 12. The crazy part is that we'll be willing to suffer and die for man's sake, but not for your God's sake, not for your power's sake. You're not willing to do that. Remarkably and ironically, a weird, very weird dynamic. Luke 12 and 5, though. He said, but I forewarn you whom you shall fear him, which after he have killed, have power to cast into hell. Yeah, I say unto you, fear him. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 farthings, and not one of them forgotten before Elohim? But even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, therefore you are of more value than many sparrows. Very, very much, you're very, very much more valuable in the eyesight of Yahuwah than some birds. Them white folks, you know why them white folks be acting like that? People like they just hate black people. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand, son, is they don't value human life, period. Irregardless of the people. They don't value it, period. It's not just because you black. They don't value white lives. They don't value any lives, but you can't hurt them birds, though. See, Yahuwah's a little bit of opposite. Now, he don't want you to do no danger to no beast, but he values human life above animal lives. Animals are nothing but they have to have bits and bridles put in their mouths. They have no level of understanding. You know what I'm saying? But I mentioned that just to mention this here, man. You can't always be worried about what these people, Psalms 104. You can't be worried about, they don't do this and don't do that. You never seen your forefathers walking around concerned about what other nations were doing or not doing. They took their petitions to Yahuwah. Some of them also understood and knew that they were in that position because of their own doing. They did not sit around and try to play the victim. You know what I'm saying? If you focused on your Elohim and doing his will, then you have no time to be concerned and worried about what other races of people are doing. He told you plainly that if you keep his word, you'll be able to live a life of peace. If you don't have any peace, it's because you're wicked. Because he said there's no peace to the wicked. There is no in between. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to tell you. I can't color any gray on that. That's what he said. There's no peace for the wicked. So if an individual finding themselves not having peace, not having order and structure and contentment and rest, then that means that there's something in your heart that is not conducive to that, according to the word of Elohim. And that just is what it is. Because the word of Elohim bring peace. So where you lack in that, there's sin present. It could be unbelief. It doesn't necessarily mean you running around here committing all manner of wickedness. It could just be an evil heart of unbelief. And that's what plagues you from having peace, because you don't believe. You have to realize that and not believing is just as evil as committing fornication or telling a lie or committing adultery. It's just as bad. It's just as bad. Psalms 104 and 24. O Yahuwah, how manifold are your works, and wisdom have you made them all, and the earth is full of your riches. So is this great and wide sea, wherein are things creeping innumerable, both small and great beasts. There go ships. Keep that in mind about that great and wide sea. There go ships. There's that Leviathan whom you have made to play therein. These wait all upon you, that you may give them their meat in due season. That you give them, they gather. You open your hand, and they are filled with good. You hide your face, they are troubled. You take away their breath, they die, and return to their dust, excuse me. You send forth your ruach, they are created, and you renew the face of the earth. The esteem of Yahuwah shall endure forever. Yahuwah shall rejoice in his works. He looked on the earth and trembled. He touched the hills and they smoke. I will sing unto Yahuwah as long as I live. I will sing praise to my Elohim while I have my being. I would recommend you do so. The nation of him shall be sweet. I will be glad in Yahuwah. Let the sinners be consumed out of the earth, and let the wicked be no more. Bless you, Yahuwah, oh my soul, hallelujah. So when you sit back and you look at this here, right, he's just making statements on the greatness of Yahuwah, and then also of his works, how he gives good, and when he hides his face, everyone is troubled. How he kills, and how he makes alive, and how his esteem is for all men to honor and to reverence. See, there's a video, and I'm going to talk to y'all about it in more detail that I had dropped in that chat about the astute black man versus the liberal family. And there's just a strong dynamic when you look at that, when you juxtapose it to the text and Yahuwah himself and his adversaries, if you will, in the text, meaning transgressors, sinners, and the sword. When you begin to look at that juxtaposition, Yahuwah is a man. Remember, we've been alluding. Y'all willing, we'll get to that sooner rather than later. Looking at that stark contrast. Elohim is not the author of confusion. He does not write disorder. I was talking to my homeboy about this the other day, because he feels like the pool of disorder and dysfunction and wickedness will outweigh any functional, orderly, structural, godly, or wise principles that you can impart to your child. See, there's a lot of things, and you sit back and look at it, and of course, I don't know which one of you took the time to watch the 50 minutes of it, of what that was worth, but the concept, I've never seen the film that he was using as a backdrop, but the concept of the film is readily available. You see it daily. Many of you have had that experience, whether you realize you had that experience or not. More so the experience with his daughter and Kerry Washington, as someone astutely pointed out. She consistently and constantly plays very harsh characters on a regular basis. But the main character, which would be the protagonist in this particular film, well, maybe not even actually the antagonist, he represented a particular mindset, which in some young men is beginning to manifest its head once again as it should. You know what I'm saying? Mindset is diametrically opposed to the mindset of this particular culture of which we currently dwell. And I had just seen something where brother was talking about why is Kevin Durant and LeBron James so sensitive? And I remember this because I did watch the clip from Speak for Yourself when they discussed this, and I agreed wholeheartedly with Jim Jackson at the time. He made the statement of, when you look at Kevin Durant and LeBron James, they were raised by their mothers. He said, but when you look at Kobe Bryant, his daddy was there. When you look at Michael Jordan, his daddy was there. And then he mentioned somebody else. He said Magic Johnson, daddy was there. Mentioned Allen Iverson, different type of dude, but he had a male figure there that may have not been his father, but he was there. And he was making that mention of how tough as nails and unconcerned that those men were about what people had to say about them. Or in the case of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan specifically, and maybe a little bit of Allen Iverson, they took about what you said about them and used that as fuel and motivation to crush and destroy you in any shape, form, or fashion that they could accomplish that. Whereas LeBron and Durant, you notice that they get in their feelings when people don't like them or say things about them, which is corresponding to the mindset of a woman, because male energy doesn't care about those things. You're going to like me or you're not. You're going to say things about me. What can I do about it? I'm not really concerned with it. I'm not going to waste my time in trying to correct or change what you feel or think about me. I'm going to continue moving in the fashion that I'm moving in to accomplish what I seek to accomplish. Your thoughts and opinions are utterly no concern to me. You know what I'm saying? This is why those men were not particularly, with the exception of Magic Johnson, this is why Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan were not particularly liked amongst many people. Also, these men were very demanding and had very high standards for the individuals that they dealt with, and that can rub people the wrong way. The only reason why it didn't rub people the wrong way rather quickly is because they won championships. So people say like, hey, we're winning, so I'll just deal with it. But that type of mindset is now in this society called to be an antiquated mindset. You know what I'm saying? But the mindset, like Kobe Bryant said, hey man, his teammates asked him to go party. He said, we can go party. He said, but if I go out and party, everybody coming to practice at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. He said all them niggas hated him because they all came at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. But that's where his mind was at. He was not concerned with doing the things that these people want to do, which is have fun and go do this here, because he had a mission. And his mission outweighed anything else that was going on. That's a different type of mindset. Being raised by a woman, it's going to be very difficult for a man to have that type of mindset and maintain it, because women don't usually think in that fashion for the most part. And it is what it is. That's no disrespect. It just is what it is. The average woman doesn't have that mindset of, I have a goal to do. I don't want to go on an adventure. I don't want to have fun. I don't want to chill. I don't want to do this, because I am thoroughly and fully committed to the attaining of this task. And I'm willing to do the menial day in and day out and monotonous tasks in order to complete that. Floyd Mayweather daddy was there, but his daddy was a dope boy, so he was in and out of prison. But he also had his uncle Roger Mayweather, and he was present as well. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing and that's also the main thing that I'm referring to, which is the confidence. Because most women are not very confident, or they don't have the ability to impart that level of confidence to a young man. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's because the emotional makeup of a woman, which makes it very difficult for them to impart confidence. It has nothing to do other than that. They're emotional by nature, so they have highs and lows. You know, and they don't move off logic and reason, and they do things based on how they feel, and they don't plan things. You know what I'm saying? Doing things by ear and whimsically, that is an attribute of a woman. Men don't do that. That's not the nature of a man. It's not how a man is supposed to be. Men are supposed to plan things out. You know what I'm saying? See things coming, be able to adjust and adapt, and to make plans and moves based off logic and reason and not by happenstance. You know what I'm saying? Those type of thought patterns are antiquated. Most women don't impart that to their sons. And if a man doesn't have a strong foundation in himself as a man, when he begins to interact with women, the average woman will try to tell him to quote unquote loosen up and to abandon and discard those principles in order to cater to her whims. You know what I'm saying? And you can't do that. You just can't do it. You're not going to do anything of note. Yes, Kyrie Irving dad was there as well. I forgot. Definitely was. And Kyrie's a confident dude. He's a weird dude. He's a confident dude. You know what I'm saying? And that's why he is thoroughly unconcerned about what people have to say about him. And Steph Curry's in the same boat. His daddy was there as well. That's why he moves in a particular fashion. Klay Thompson as well. That's why you see Draymond Green also is very, very emotional because he was raised by his mama. You know what I'm saying? That's why he reacts. That's why he can feel like he can get emotional and call a grown man out his name and know that there won't be any repercussions or consequences for disrespecting a man like that in front of other people. But all those things are relevant and prevalent. That's another reason. Brother told me the other day, shalom, Brother Harrison. That ain't, I mean, shoot. It's not the child's fault if the father, to be fatherless, your daddy has to be dead. We talk about that. I've been talking to somebody about that the other day. You're not a fatherless child if your daddy did. I was not a fatherless child because my daddy didn't live in my house. You know what I'm saying? I was a fatherless child because my mother and father had, what's the proper term that I want to use? Because I don't want to use double negatives or things of that nature. But they've had irresponsible sexual decision making, to put it lightly, period. Because with more responsible decision making, I would not be sitting here having this conversation with you. You know what I'm saying? And I told somebody that they went to crazy, but I understood that once I understood the word. That was irresponsible on their part. It's not my fault that my daddy wasn't there, and I don't hold that to be my fault. I don't know him and my mama's dynamic, and I never asked because I didn't feel like it was none of my business. Do you know what I'm saying? Her personal relations between her and my father has nothing to do with me in that regard because I didn't hold anything that transpired as having anything to do with me, whether he was there or whether he wasn't there. I knew that had absolutely nothing to do with me. Now, I do know that most children don't have that outlook, and they will look at it and think that it's something that they did, which only proves that as adults, we need to be more responsible with who we lay with. And that if you don't see yourself making her your wife, then why would you make her a mother? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? If you know you're not going to marry her, why would you impregnate her? I understood that at a very young age. I don't even want to sleep with you. I don't want to take the chance because I know I ain't going to marry you, so I definitely don't want you to have my kids. You know what I'm saying? But you're young and you're reckless. You know what I'm saying? So you do things and you have to deal with the consequences of reckless decision making. You know what I'm saying? I talked to several people and they mention certain things and they be like, well, whose fault is it? Who is your fault, nigga? What you mean whose fault it is? If you put yourself in a negative, if there's a negative situation that you're dealing with somebody, then that was your fault because you tolerated that treatment. You accepted it, you allowed it, you entertained it, you turned your head from it. You know what I'm saying? That's on you. You have to wear that. You know what I'm saying? I was just talking to my homeboy about that, matter of fact, specifically. Can't blame, because he was saying something about, well, what if the one, I said, leave her alone, bro. What you mean? If you stay fooling with her, then that's on you, my nigga. You can leave her alone. Nobody's forcing you to mess with them. Like if you have a particular standard and that person doesn't want to meet that and operate in that fashion, leave them alone. You know what I'm saying? What's the point? You're only doing that because you're fearful and you're not confident that you can meet somebody else and get somebody else. That's why you don't want them to go. Do you know what I'm saying? But you got to let them go. Go on about your business. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. It's no disrespect. It's no problems. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I cannot tolerate that. At the same token, we done discussed this before. This is why most women don't want a man of a higher level, because there's a standard that's going to come with that. She's not going to be the center of attention. She's going to have to lift up her code of conduct and her thought process and how she operates. And the average woman doesn't want that. She'd rather just take a man whom she can readily control and be able to maintain her selfish nature and to do what it is that she wants to do. And we have examples of women like that out of the text, Jezebel namely. But come back over here to Isaiah 13. And these are simple things, man. We just get emotionally attached or tied. It may not even be to the person. It could just be to the situation. You know what I'm saying? Or we just don't want to accept that this is not going to go how I thought it was going to go. So you feel like we can make it go how we want it to go when the writing's on the wall, if you will. Like it's like in Daniel, you know, the writing's on the wall. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Just got to leave them alone, man. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, everything different. Like I say, like for me, man, I never felt like my mom and daddy interaction was any of my business. I wasn't concerned with it. Never asked him, never asked her. Didn't ask them why they didn't get married. Didn't ask them what their dynamic was. I didn't feel like that information would profit me or do anything for me. You know what I'm saying? What was that going to do for me? I couldn't come up with any logical reasoning of how that would benefit me in any shape, form, or fashion. To somebody else, that may be a benefit for them. I'm not saying that that's not a benefit, because every person is different. So y'all have to understand that. Everybody may need certain things. Everybody might want to know and understand certain information. Just because I didn't feel the need to know it does not minimize that for another person. Because if another person say, well, I would like to know that, well, then go seek that out. And if you're able to get that information, so be it. And if you're not, you have to be willing to accept that. I mean, but we already know society is messed up. I mean, that's a given. But I can't invest my time in the fact that society is messed up because I can't change society. See, that's what our biggest problem is. You can't change America. So stop being concerned with it. The only thing that you can change is yourself first. First and foremost, you need to change yourself, and then you can deal with the people around you. And that's rough, and I'm sorry to hear that. And that's a horrible dynamic, and that's definitely an environment of supreme dysfunction. You know what I'm saying? Which can definitely have an adverse effect on your mental state. You know what I'm saying? I didn't experience that. So I didn't have those problems. I got my confidence from my granddaddy. He taught it to me. You know, my mom and my auntie shot some certain things, but he taught that though. He implanted that. He the one told me this is this and this is this. He the one told me don't worry about what anybody thinks or says about you. That's none of your concern. Do you know what I'm saying? You need to focus on this, this, and this. This, and this. You know what I'm saying? That's where that came from. Because I was with this man every single solitary chance I could get. I done told you before, I got suspended on school on purpose. You know what I'm saying? So I could go to this man's home. This man didn't whoop me for that. Barely got chastised for that. But for me, it was imperative. And my mama made sure to take me to him I wanted to be around this man, period. I didn't want to sit around my mom and my auntie and my cousin all the time. For what? For what? Didn't make sense. Even at 5, 6 years old, just didn't make sense. And I love my mom and my auntie and my cousin, without question. But I don't want to sit around y'all all the time. For what? You know what I'm saying? This is why dudes join gangs and certain things of this nature, because they're looking for that male energy from an older male specifically that they probably didn't receive in their household. You know what I'm saying? But there's a difference. You can tell quite readily if a man or a woman had some type of masculine energy around them on a consistent basis by how they conduct themselves. You can tell. It's unmistakable. It's undeniable. And confidence is certainly one of the strongest indicators that there was some type of male presence around that child. Because that is very, very difficult for a woman to impart. Just because a woman is usually not satisfied with her own body and her own looks. Either that's coming from societal programming or just from the influx of her emotions on any particular day. So it'd be very difficult for her to instill that level of confidence because most women are told that their confidence should rest in their looks. Well, you can't instill that in a little boy. What is that going to do for him? It's not going to do anything for him. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to do anything for him. But confidence is what allows you to come back from failure with enthusiasm and not the woe is me, or like LeBron likes to do. And even before the listeners listening to some stuff, and I already seen that LeBron James acts like a ho-ho on a regular basis. You can see that he's a very feminine man. You know what I'm saying? He does very, very feminine things on a consistent basis. Anytime he loses, he didn't have enough help. It's never, we lost. And I'll do that there. The people who was with me wasn't good enough. That's what women do. You know what I'm saying? He's very passive aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Because he wants plausible deniability so that he can never take the blame. Men don't do that. You know what I'm saying? He lost that series against Golden State. Wasn't nothing wrong with your wrist. You pop up at the podium with a cast on. Come on, my nigga. Men don't do that. That's not a masculine move. You know what I'm saying? It's always but that's a neat thing, man. But it's nobody's fault, man. When you 9 times out of 10, man, if your daddy wasn't in the house, man, it's either his fault or your mammy's fault. Or a combination of the two. Simple as that. He either didn't want to handle his responsibilities, do you know what I'm saying? So he fled. Or your mama got on his last nerve and he would rather just leave because he didn't want to deal with her. Didn't mean he didn't want to deal with you. He didn't want to deal with her. And it's really just that simple. And niggas can try to clean it up and dress it up based off what you see going on in society. But man, put all that crap to bed. That's 1 or 2 reasons. He ain't want to be no man. Well, might be 3. Because sometimes dudes leave if they feel like that they can't perform the duties of a man like a man is supposed to. And then their confidence and their self-worth begins to dissipate. So they feel like it's best for them just to depart than for their son to see them operate in a fashion that they perceive to be as less than a man. Those are usually the 3 reasons why a dude leaves. Either he ain't about nothing, he feel like he's worthless, so the child is better off without his presence, or the mama ain't about nothing, and he can't stand her, so he left. Or, let me take that back, and you got a 4th one, irresponsible sexual behavior between 2 people, which leads to a dysfunctional environment and the child suffers. And that's what it is, man. And ain't no way around that. It's really simple. It's not a complex matter. But at the end of the day, the one person whose responsibility it is not is the child. It's not the child's fault because daddy's not there, or if the mama ain't there. Because some women just as bad as the men. Take the kid to grandma's house, next thing you know, they grandma kid. You ain't never got them. But see, a lot of women don't like to have them conversations about a lot of these bald-headed hoes out here. It's just as much as deadbeats as the men, and they got the kids. Some of y'all know hoes right now ain't got their kids, and you ain't never asked no question why that hoe ain't got her kids. But you always ask a nigga why he ain't got his. And if you a man and a chick say she got kids and she ain't got them, that's when you know you need to put your track shoes on. Because that definitely ain't no woman to be entertaining. You ain't got your kids. Well, why you ain't got them? Oh, they live with my mama. Well, why you don't live with your mama? If your kids round there, why you ain't round there with them? So you don't like to have them questions because nobody wants to believe that a woman could be that devious and irresponsible and selfish and be it. Nobody don't want to believe that because you just want to believe only men do that. Just like y'all don't want to believe women cheat on their men. Only men be cheating. These hoes cheat too. They sluts. Mass majority of these women are whores and will dip out on their nigga in a heartbeat. And they don't even sit back and be like, oh, because he did it first. No, that's not it. Because we already talked about that. Ain't a woman living gonna stay with a nigga and be miserable. She gonna leave. Nigga stay with a woman, be miserable. Don't even cheat. Can't stand this woman. Hate her guts. Ain't going nowhere. Won't entertain another woman. Y'all seen it if you're old enough. Y'all watch Married with Children. You seen the template. Happens every day. Happens every day. You have to deal with reality and not the false narrative that this music and these movies and these TV shows be putting about the sexes, man. Both sexes have degenerate ways attached to it, and you have to be brutally honest in regards to both of it, because especially with the woman, because nobody doesn't want to tell the woman when she's wrong. And nobody don't want to tell the woman what she's wrong for a multitude of reasons. One, they don't want to deal with her emotional connection when she has it. And two, most men don't want to lose out on the opportunity of physical gratification. So they'll utterly refuse to tell her about herself. Now, this is also in regards to, like, now as a woman, you shouldn't just let random men come up and go off on you, just as you shouldn't be submitting to random men. You should only be submitting to your husband or your father. You know what I'm saying? Period. You know what I'm saying? Outside of submitting to whoever is over the congregation you're a part of. But if you marry, your submission to be to your husband. If you're not married, then that's when that come into play. But if you marry, your submission to be to your husband. Shouldn't be submitting to random men, and you shouldn't be getting into physical or I should say verbal disputes and altercations with a man and you got a husband. That's just uncouth all the way around, and despicable and vile and dishonorable to your husband, because you got him looking like a whole sucker because you out here arguing with random niggas in the street, arguing with niggas on the internet. Go home to your husband, watch your turn, cook a meal, wash some drawers. You ain't gonna been there arguing with no grown man. And that nigga lame if he arguing with you. Nevertheless, Isaiah 13. We're about verse 10, man. And we've already seen this. We just read it in Matthew 24 a minute ago. So you've seen what time period that Isaiah 13 is pointing to. It says, for the stars of Shamahim and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Now check it, right? What brought Isaiah 13 back to my mind, because I had forgot all about it. This verse right here, this verse 12, this is what they use to justify a man having 7 wives in the kingdom. Because it ain't going to be so many men. So see, you got to go ahead and get you a man. So that's why this man going to have 7 women. But let's look at Isaiah 4 to see when the time period of what is actually being discussed. Now, I've told too many people this too many times. Isaiah 4:1. We've said it on camera many times. You're not having sex in the kingdom, you doofus. Yahushua himself told you, they of the resurrection are like the Malachim and Shamahim. They are not given into marriage, nor are in marriage. You doofus. Why would you be thinking about pulling your penis out in the kingdom of Elohim to place it in a woman's womb? Why is that even on your mind? Your Elohim is dwelling with you, and you thinking about copulating. Now you have to really sit back and assess your thought process. You're supposed to be striving for eternal life, and you're thinking about copulation, coitus. What is wrong with that mindset? It says, in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by your name to take away our reproach. Now, we've discussed this ad nauseum. Ain't a man on this earth can take away dishonor, because sin is a reproach to any people. There is but one man who can take away reproach, and that is Yahushua HaMashiach. Can't no man, me marrying you, you being called by my name, does not take away your dishonor. If you was a whore, you still a whore. You getting married doesn't stop you from being a whore. Repenting to Yahuwah Elohim is what stops you from being a whore. I don't have that ability. And if a man tells you he has that ability, That man is sick in the head. He said, in that day shall the branch of Yahuwah be beautiful and esteemed, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Yasharal. So now he's talking about of them that are escaped. And we've already been talking about them that are escaped. He said, it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remain in Jerusalem shall be called Kadash, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. So if you are written among the living in Jerusalem, this means your name is written in the Lamb's book of life. So this is clearly ain't talking about no 7 women coming to no man, unless you're talking about those 7 assemblies. Nevertheless, when the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the ruach of judgment and by the ruach of burning. And see, we done talked about that before. Why does he have to purge the blood from Jerusalem? Because there was sin there. You use fire and burning to purify. Remember, the beast is in Jerusalem saying he God, all manner of wickedness is going on. I have to purge that blood out, because if I don't purge it out, the city is unclean. Therefore, I can't dwell there. This is common sense that people knew the law. Yahuwah can't dwell in an unclean space. That's why people can't receive the Ruach until they believe and repent, because he can't dwell in an unclean vessel. He won't do it. Because at that, it's 2 things going to happen if Yahuwah dwells in an unclean vessel. That's going to make Yahuwah unclean. Elohim forbid he would ever do anything as asinine as that, or that vessel must be destroyed, because our Elohim is a consuming fire. So therefore he would consume that and it would be nothing left. See, it's only 2 options. And if you know the law, you would know this. And this would not be a very hard, I'm not saying y'all don't know. I'm just saying that this is not going to be a hard concept to grasp and understand. How many of y'all going to put cereal in a dirty bowl? You're not going to do that. So why would Yahuwah put breath in a dirty vessel? Okay, that's what you want him to do. Because you want him to have gray areas and compromise and bend and budge like you do. But see, he's not you. See, that's another thing as forth is with masculinity that especially a lot of women don't like, because men don't compromise. See, and a lot of women, you've been told that you got to be able to compromise in a relationship. That is nonsense. All that is teaching men to go against what they know is right to appease this woman. Yeah, you can compromise on, I want to go here to eat, but I want this. We're not talking about stupid junk like that. They're telling men to compromise on morals, standards, doctrines, ways and doings that are against the well-being and goodness of the household to appease this woman. And the men don't compromise. You don't compromise your ideals and convictions for anyone at any time. You don't do it. You know what I'm saying? And if that woman wants you to continually compromise who and what you stand for, she has to go. She has to go. You can't continue to dwell in that type of space. And if you're a woman with a mature mind, this man wants you to compromise your convictions, you have to go. You can't do that. You just don't do that. Yahuwah don't compromise. Go read the book, see where Yahuwah compromised himself at. Yahuwah does not compromise at all. Some people are like, well, what about with Abraham? He didn't compromise with Abraham. He told Abraham, you know what, you're right. That's along the lines of my standards. I will not destroy the righteous with the wicked. Go find me 50. I'll spare it. That's not compromising. That's somebody bring, you know what? You're right. That's not compromising. Don't let that man mercy and compassion be considered compromising. A man never compromised his ideals for anyone, not even his own son. You know what I'm saying? You have to put that foolishness to the side. I'll be telling y'all, you can't bring the concepts of relationship and child rearing and nothing of the world and mix it with the word. They don't go together. They don't go together. You can't bring secular with spiritual. You can't bring earthly with heavenly. You can't do that. He told you don't mix garments and don't mix wine, but we jackasses. We feel like we could do it anyway. You can't mix that. Matter of fact, and I got something to share with y'all that I ran across last night. You might find it interesting. You know what I'm saying? You might not. We'll find out in a moment. Y'all will, and I'll be able to work it in real smooth. Verse 5. Yahuwah will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and a smoke by day and a shining fire by night. Upon all the esteemed shall be a defense. There shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and a place of refuge for a covert from the storm and from rain. Of course, this is hearkening back to when you were in the wilderness with the tabernacle of witness. But clearly, Isaiah chapter 4 is dealing plainly with Mashiach and dwelling in the kingdom with him. Ain't got nothing to do with you getting no wives, copulating. Can't be that simple. Of course, he said he gonna make man more precious than fine gold. We already read in Isaiah 51, and he said everything that dwell on the earth gonna be burnt up like the earth in heaven is. That's common sense. Nevertheless, only the righteous gonna stand, because remember, flesh gonna wither as grass. But the word of Yahuwah endure forever. That's why you must be born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible. Or you're gonna be a tree, a fruit that wither that's twice dead. That's what's gonna happen. Ain't nothing else can happen other than that. Back to verse 13, man. Isaiah 13 and 13. And we can slide over here to Jeremiah 51. After the stuff is just being redundant. Therefore I will shake Shamahim, and the earth shall remove out of her place, and the wrath of Yahuwah of hosts in the day of his fierce anger. And it shall be as a chased roe and as a sheep that no man take up, that every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. So if you join yourself to Babylon, you're dying. We done already looked at this. If you join yourself to the beast and the Babylon and he catch you, he killing you. Ain't nothing to talk about. He getting you out of here. And remember, the backdrop that we use in this hatred stir up strife. The hatred of the people towards Yahuwah is what has crafted the strife. This is why he told you, he said, those of you who know righteousness, whose Torah is in my heart, he said, don't you fear the reviling and reproaches of men, because their hatred for him is what is going to stir up the strife. You got to understand, it ain't got nothing. The minute you understand that most things that people say and do have absolutely nothing to do with you, you'll be a lot better off, and people will not be able to react. I told y'all this before. People talking about, I just said somebody hollered at me about that other day. I seen the meme again. People sit back and say how you react, but not how they triggered you. That's just a weak nigga's response. That's just a weak nigga's response. You have to eliminate that type of thought process out your head, because at the end of the day, that's a weak nigga's response. Because they came at Yahusha to trigger him all the time, and he never reacted in that fashion. Never, not once. He kept telling them, why you tempt me? He already knew what they were doing. He already knew what they was doing. He already knew what type of reaction they were trying to get out of him, and he was not going to justify them by rewarding them by sinking down to their level. And this is what I mean when you're talking about how you're crafted to think a particular type of way, because that is a woman's way of thinking. People only want to talk about how you reacted, not how you were triggered. Men don't operate in that fashion, because I'm not going to give you the power to trigger me. So you're not going to get the reaction that you want to get, because I'm not going to feed your sickness. I'm not going to entertain you. Do you know what I'm saying? Period. That is a woman's way of thinking. Women think that way. You need to tell them why I snap. Then you'll know. Nobody don't need to tell me nothing other than you can't control yourself. How can somebody saying something to you cause you to lose control of your faculties? How does that happen? Do you know what I'm saying? That's something that we have to ask ourselves. How do I allow another person to get me off of who I am with words? That means I have no control of my emotions, that I can allow an individual to have the power to push the pendulum of my emotions by his words. That is a feminine reaction. And we have to be able to accept the fact that that's what that is. And almost every man in this earth has fell victim to that emotional construct at some particular point in his life, even if he was taught better. And if you did it, you just have to accept the fact that's on me. That's not that person's fault. That's not the person who quote unquote triggered you fault. That's your fault because you allowed it. You know what I'm saying? You did that. Never give that any other type of person that type of power over your mental space to be able to move you like Pinocchio. You know what I'm saying? You think, well, imagine if Yahushua would have let the people move him when they came at him trying to tempt him with Caesar's corn. Or what about when they came and tried to tempt him with the woman caught in adultery? They were trying to trigger him then. There's many times we could go through this text where these people were trying to trigger him, to catch him up in his words, or catch him trying to do something. And y'all know every time he said, why tempt you me? He knew what they were doing. He knew what they were doing. That is an example of self-control and yielding to the power of Elohim and not giving your power to an idiot. Then sometimes people get triggered because you disagree. Just because you disagree with somebody should not come out with some major reaction. And that's the sad part of manhood amongst our people now, because two men can't disagree without it descending into foolishness. It's okay. It's okay. Just because someone disagrees with you, that's not an attack on you. They just disagree with whatever you're talking about. You can't take someone disagreeing with you personally. That is a feminine reaction. Two men can have a conversation and disagree and still be peaceable. Even their debate on the matter could be quote unquote heated and it's still not personal because you're debating the matter. It's not personal. You're not coming for the person. But we live in a society where we take everything personally, that if someone disagrees with you or debates with you, it's indicative of you. No, it's indicative of your stance on the topic. It's okay. You can disagree and it don't descend into foolishness. But emotional energy does not allow us to operate in that fashion. The men in this text disagreed. Some of them disagreed to the point where they operated in feminine energy and wanted to kill someone. Other people disagreed and say, I don't agree with you, and went on their way. And that was it just was that simple. I don't agree. I don't see it in that fashion. Period. And as us dealing with the word, we ought to know that. He said, he that despise not man, but Elohim. So we have to learn that things don't have anything to do with you. Can't do that. You drive yourself crazy. Verse 16, their children shall also be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled and their wives ravished. You already told, I'm going to kill all their children. And they going to see it. You know why they going to see their children get killed? Because you saw your children get killed. It's just that. He said, render unto them double. But what you think he going to do? You think when they were persecuting you for the name of Yahushua, they wasn't persecuting and killing your children too? Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb, and their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the esteem of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. That's how you're going to do it. That's how I go to Jeremiah 51. I still got some more stuff, man. I don't even know I'm going to get it today, man. Might not even get that in, or y'all willing to save it for a future time. But yeah, man, you know what I mean? That's why Peter told you that, we ought to follow Mashal. Let's just grab that real fast because I keep mentioning it. You might well look at it. 1 Peter chapter 2. Two and 21. I know it might be hard. Make it 2 and 20. I know it might be hard. Well, 2 and 19, but 1 Peter 2 and 19, but that's what it is. That's a part of the fruit of the Ruach and having self-control. You got to remember, these people call Yahushua blasphemer to his face. Ain't nobody ever tried to stone you because you said before Abraham was, I am. Nobody ever tried to kill you for that. And this man wasn't triggered to the point that he felt like he had to snap. And since I'm mentioning these points with that, I'm going to show y'all some of that too, man. I'd be remiss if I didn't do so. For this is thankworthy if a man for conscience towards Elohim endure grief suffering wrongfully. For what esteem is it when you be buffeted for your faults, you shall take it patiently. But if and when you do well and suffer for it, and you take it patiently, this is acceptable with Elohim. For even hereunto you were called, because the Mashal also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth, who when he was reviled not again. And when he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him who judged righteously. So notice, it was his faith in Elohim which allowed him to not allow an individual to trigger him. Meaning, when you allow someone to trigger you, you give your power over to that person. Instead of giving his power to that person, he gave his power to his Abba in heaven. That's the difference. That's who he gave his power to. Don't give your power to people, give your power to Yah, and yet Yah deal with them. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do that. And you can't use that lame excuse of they ain't gonna tell you how to trigger because that's feminine. I'm speaking to the men specifically. That's feminine, and we can't operate that way. We can't allow anyone to have that type of control over us because at that point we're not fit to lead. Indeed, we're not fit to lead. If an individual can trigger us and manipulate and move our emotions and our reactions, then we're not fit to lead. Because that means your family or whoever's under your charge and whatever vocation you're in are going to be subject to your emotions and your whims at any given time. Why would they trust your leadership if they know that you can be manipulated emotionally to react however the manipulator wants you to move? That doesn't engender trust. So therefore they won't follow. This is why Yahuwah does not operate in that fashion. Therefore he genders trust. Therefore you can follow. Come over here to which one do I want to use? Well, shoot, we can use John 19. That just came to mind. We'll use that one there when somebody literally put their hands on it. Well, John 18, somebody literally put their hands on it. 18 and 18. That's that. We grab Matthew 22. We hit 2-3 witnesses as Torah requires. And the servants and the officers stood there who made a fire of coals, for it was cold. They warmed themselves, and Peter stood with him and warmed himself. The high priest then asked Yahushua of his disciples and of his doctrine. Yahushua answered him, I spake openly to the world. I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple, whether the Yahudim already resort, and in secret have I said nothing. Why ask you me? Ask them which heard me, what I have said unto them. Behold, they know what I said. And when he had thus spoken, one of the officers which stood by struck Yahushua with the palm of his hand, saying, Answer you the high priest so? Yahushua answered him, If I have spoken evil, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why smite you me? The level of self-control that is exhibited here, one, the high priest is asking him of his doctrine, and he told him, I spoke openly. Everybody heard what I said. And if you want to know what I said, then ask the people who heard me. Why? Because they would be a second witness of what he said. You have to pay attention to your law and your Elohim, and you'll know why he said, go ask them. Because as the high priest, he should have known that himself. Don't ask me what I said. Ask the people who heard me if they will confirm the word. But when that man slapped him, he didn't react and say, I'm the son of God, I'm going to kill all you niggas. He said, if I spoke evil, sir, you bear witness of that. But if not, what did you strike me for? He did not allow this person to trigger him through a physical altercation. Smith physically struck him. Not only physically struck him, but slapped him in the face. A very high form of disrespect towards another man. And he maintained his control because his power was given unto his Elohim and never to this officer. That's the fruit of the Ruach, and that's an example of temperance or self-control. But see, that's certain stuff that we don't want to like to hear because you feel like you have to exert how manly we are, and not realizing that resorting to violence in a lot of instances is from a lack of emotional discipline and self-control. Because you can't discipline your thoughts, you can't discipline your feelings. So you react emotionally like a woman. So in your attempt to show forth how manly you are, you actually are showing how you're not that masculine because you're overcompensating for what you lack. And that's not to say that it's cool to slap a man in his face. By no means. We know that's very disrespectful. You know that's a fighting scenario. 99.9% of the time. You know what I'm talking about? But in this instance, he had a work to accomplish. He could not allow his emotions to dictate what he was going to do. Same difference when he was on the stake and they were asking him and mocking him to come down and he didn't answer because I have a work to do. I can't allow you to trigger me with your speech. If you be the son of God, come down. He saved others. He can't save himself. They were trying to trigger him with those words to get him to do something that he shouldn't do. The same way when he was hungry and Satan come to him talking about, I'll give you this and I'll give you that. It doesn't matter what the other person is saying or doing because you can't control that. The only thing you can control is how you react. You react in a wrong fashion, that's on you. Yahuwah's not going to look at that person and say, oh, I'm going to spare him. Because see, you had did that to trigger him. So I'm not going to hold that sin against him because you were triggered. He's going to take both of y'all out. It don't work that way. You can't run that type of sympathy to Yahuwah because he's not concerned. Because I told you to behave and I gave you instructions as your father, as this is what you ought to do. And you didn't do it. And you're trying to blame someone else for what you didn't do. That's a lack of accountability. And feminine again, he's not accepting that. Well, I didn't do it because he did this to me. What that got to do with me? And if you don't believe that, go ahead and check out that law in Deuteronomy 13, where he told you, irregardless, if the sign and wonder come to pass, I did that to prove you to whether you see if you love me or not. I don't care what's going on around you or what somebody else did. What did I tell you to do? That's what you have to keep that in mind with the beast. All these people going to be going crazy, worshiping the beast, doing this, doing that. But you know what your God told you to do, and that's all you need to be concerned with. That's how that man died in 1 Kings 13, prophet too. But Yahuwah told you don't go back the way you came, nor eat bread in this place. So I don't care what this person said to you. What did I tell you to do? That's how your mind has to be. And a lot of the times, the reason why our minds are not in that fashion, because most of us did not have a strong man in the house to set that type of standard and template on that's what it's going to be. Do you know what I'm saying? So therefore, you're not going to look at another man with that type of regard, whether he be somebody in the word or a person on your job. I've told you this before. Because my granddaddy was present when I was young, as I got older, when I went to prison, I ain't had no problem having respect for a black male officer in a correctional facility. That didn't bother me in the least bit. Some of them niggas like, man, bump that nigga. I'm not going to disrespect this man. You know what I'm saying? For what? For what? He's a man. He's do that. He's older than me. He's do that. I'm not going to disrespect. I'm not going to look at him in that way. But a lot of young men learn that way because their mama hated their daddy. Or hate all men, period, because she's an idiot, because she consistently and constantly picks the wrong men. And instead of blaming herself, she wants to blame them men. So therefore, that young man grows up to have a contempt for his own gender, because that's where he learned it from. But there's many other factors for that type of dysfunction. But nevertheless, and these are things that I've seen firsthand. You know what I'm saying? With a lot of my peers in the same fashion. You know, some of my peers with the children that they had from certain women. You know, it is what it is, man. It's an ugly situation. I know I mentioned Luke 16 and 15 very, very, very many moons ago, but it's no longer relevant at this particular juncture in time. Matthew chapter 20. It's hard pills to swallow, man, but they got to be swallowed if you want to be healed. According to the word, you got to swallow. Got to. Make sure I'm in the right place, because I feel like I'm overlooked and look what I came over here for. I definitely feel like I'm overlooking one here. Oh, that's because it's chapter 22. That's why. 22 and 15. That's He said, then went the Pharisees and took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk. So their whole objective is to go out there and trigger him so they could do something to him. And they sent out unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that you are Elohim and truth, neither care you for any man, for you regard not the person of men. And see, their attempt to try to bring his defense down and triggering him was to flatter him. Tell us therefore, what think you? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But Yahushua perceived their wickedness and said, why tempt you me, you hypocrites? He let them know. Why y'all come around here with that nonsense with your lying self? You phony bastard. Just know that I know, my nigga. Sometimes when you see somebody trying to trigger you, man, you know that's what they doing. They doing that on purpose. You ought to let them know you know what they doing. And then respond with tact, maturity, and wisdom, and go about your business so they can stand there as the jackass that they are. You know what I'm saying? That's more powerful than reacting in an emotional fashion by acknowledging, I know full well what you're doing. And this is how I will respond to your foolishness with outright wisdom and walk away from you. So you can stand there and be stupid. That's how you win that. This is all the Lord did. That's how you win that. He said, show me the tribute money. They brought him a penny. He said unto them, whose is this image and superscription? They said unto him, Caesar's. Then he said unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto Elohim the things that are Elohim. And when they heard these words, they marveled, and they left him and went their way. All you got to do is, remember, wisdom is skill. All he did was put some skill on him. Remember, he told you to be harmless as doves and wise as a serpent. So there's no way someone should be able to trigger you. So I was talking to my homeboy about this last night too. He told me how a prophet deceived him out of $120 when he was a Christian and got his homeboy for 80. I said, that man didn't deceive you. He said, what you mean? I said, you deceived yourself. He said, how did I do that? I said, because you wanted to believe that whatever he told you to do, it will result in you getting a certain amount of money. You wanted to believe that. You knew that in the construct and realms of reality that this was pure and utter nonsense, but you wanted to believe the lie. So you were willing to go do whatever it was, because I can't recall what he said. Man told me to go do something with a card, with a debit card, to render him them $120 because you wanted to believe the lie. Because in the most part, like, yeah, Satan deceived Eve, but Eve deceived herself because she wanted to believe the lie. See, that's what's going to happen with the beast when that goes down. See, people want to believe the lie. So you're going to convince yourself that the lie is the truth because you have such a strong desire to believe it. See, and I would tell them too, right? A lot of people get got off of two things, desire and greed. This is how people are able to deceive, through desire and greed. You know what I'm talking about? That's how you get got. See, most people who don't get deceived because they enter into all situations with logic and reason. So if you enter into the situation with logic and reason, a person can never play on your greed or your desires. So an individual could be lying and you know they lying and you allow them to do it because you want them to think that they're getting over because you're playing chess while they're playing checkers. You're 3-4 moves ahead because you've already known what they're doing. I gave him an example. I went to a job interview many, many years ago, or what I thought was a job interview. Turned out it was a pyramid scheme. Of course, I didn't know that when I got there. But when I got there, I looked around and I said, I've never been in a job interview with this many people in the room. So that was a red flag. Then they went to talking about whatever it was, because I can't recall the specifics. And they only focused on how much money you could make. I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? Whatever. When he got finished, and then they had actually planted people in their pyramid scheme in the crowd, of which, of course, you wouldn't know that. But as when he concluded, the young woman asked me why I was looking so mean. I said, I'm thinking right now. Then they tried to sell me the nonsense. I say, well, show me some spreadsheets and things on the products y'all selling. This nigga showed me magazine clips. I said, yo, my nigga, these magazine clips, man, what's up with that? I use some vernacular. No, I just can't, even though really some of the vernacular you use with the selling of narcotics is really business vernacular, same concept, just one product's illegal, one is not. He tried to use, well, when the kingpin, because he got upset because there were a couple women standing right there and they heard me talking to him and they seen that I was deconstructing and destroying the lie because these women were ready to drop their money. But the only reason why I wasn't falling for that is because I was not moved by emotion or desire on what he was talking about. Logic and reason told me he was lying. So I'm good. This is the only way you can be deceived is through your greed or your desires. And even then you're deceiving yourself because you already know that that's not true and that's not right. But you don't care because you want to believe the lie. This is why Paul say, when sin came, it deceived me and it slew me because you wanted to believe the lie that I could do this and live, that it wouldn't be no penalty for me. You want to believe the lie. That's how you get deceived. And you have to realize that if you remove your desire and your emotions and deal with everything with reason and logic, you cannot be deceived. It's outright impossible because you're going to analyze it according to that. So now we're just using it on a natural sense. So now let's deal with what we follow, which is the way of Yahuwah. If you put your desire and your emotions to the side and you look at everything through the Ruach of Yahuwah Elohim, through his word, how can at that point you saying somebody could deceive Yahuwah? And we know that that's just not true. That's just not true. That's not possible. So once we know that that's not possible, then we know that this is how we ought to live. This is why he tell you the flesh profit nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life. They're breath. They're words that give life. And they're the truth. So if they're the truth, how can the truth be deceived by a lie? Truth and a lie can't exist in the same place. Mark chapter 3, this will be our last example. And then we got to hit Jeremiah 51. Mark 3 and 1. I tell you, man, life is very simple. We just make it hard. Definitely got to can't put new wine in the old vessel, it's going to burst it. So it's just better to destroy the whole vessel and just make a new one. That's why he told you in Ezekiel, man, make you a new heart and a new spirit. Just make a new one. And understand that Yahuwah is a masculine entity. So when you see that, you'll operate differently. You know what I'm saying? As far as your construct and your mind is concerned and your decision making is concerned. You know what I'm saying? Then as a woman, your desire for men should change because you're going to desire a man who's like your Abba, who thinks like your Abba, who operates like your Abba. Somebody who operates and it doesn't think that way, that's not going to appeal to you. And if it does, it just means you're stupid. You know what I'm saying? Period. And if you're a man and you see how this is why Yahushua say, everything my Abba do, I do likewise. So everything you see Hamashiach move, that's how his Abba move. So if he go, you gonna follow him. That's how you move. And if that don't appeal to you to move that way, then that just means you're stupid. Because remember, stupid is to know the truth and still follow lies. Dumb is to close your eyes. And ignorant, you just don't know. There's a difference. I could give you a pass for being ignorant. Not willfully ignorant, but being ignorant. Because being willfully ignorant is you just don't want to know and you go out your way not to know. Do you know what I'm saying? Being dumb, you close your eyes out of fear. You know what I'm saying? You want to be dumb because you don't want to deal with the reality of the truth, because it's going to push you to cause you to make a change that you might not be comfortable with making. So you'd rather do like a turkey and stick your head in the sand and close your eyes in order not to deal with it. But to be stupid, that's to know better and not do better. Do you know what I'm saying? And you can't have no sympathy for somebody in that fashion for being stupid. Because you know better, but you just don't want to do better. You're stubborn. You're obstinate. You're rebellious. Mark chapter 3 and verse 1. And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand, and they watched him whether he would heal on Shabbat, that they might accuse him. And he said unto the man which had the withered hand, stand forth. And he said unto him, is it lawful to do good on Shabbat, or to do evil, to save a life, or to kill? But they held their shalom. And when he looked around about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of hearts, he said unto the man, stretch forth your hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. And the Pharisees went forth straightway and took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. You know what irked them the most? The fact that they couldn't trigger him. The fact that they couldn't trigger him, that made them mad the most. And truth be told, that makes people so angry when they see that they cannot manipulate your emotions. Because then they know they don't have any power over you. Because all they were getting off on was the power that you allowed them to have over you. The only people, at least with the women and the kids, the woman, the only person that should have power over you is your husband. Do you know what I'm saying? The only people who should have power over a man is men whom he has submitted himself to their authority and whatever construct that they have going on, because there's nothing wrong with that. You know, the book tells you submit yourselves one to another, submit yourselves to the elder, submit yourself to those who have rule over you. There's no shame in that. That's a cultural construct, and there's no shame in that. It's just don't submit yourselves to an idiot. There's no shame in that. Don't let nobody tell you that it's shame in that. And if you feel like it's shame in that, that ain't nothing but your false sense of masculinity that is really pride. Because you just can't humble yourself to submit to serve another man because you feel like that's going to make you weak. But it doesn't. It doesn't. And not in the least bit. And you already know this because your master washed his own disciples' feet. He said, I'm your Lord and Master, and I've washed your feet. You ought to wash one another's feet. Submitting to each other doesn't make you weak. No more than a woman submitting to her husband makes her weak. That's a way of silent strength, which is more strong than any nigga who refuses to do so. Because the nigga who refuses to do so is manifesting his weakness and his emotional and spiritual immaturity and an inability to serve someone else so he can appear to be strong. Do you know what I'm saying? But you have to be able to pay attention to that and see that. Jeremiah 51. I don't remember where we stopped at, but I'll pick it up at verse 41. Jeremiah 51 and 41. Hold on, because I need to grab another bottle of water. Yeah, man. You know, give thanks to Yahuwah, man. It's a beautiful day. It's a Shabbat. We're alive. Could be in the land of silence and darkness. But Yahuwah saw fit to keep us in the land of the living. To see another day of his rest, for another hearing of his word. So, you know, give thanks and praise and honor to the name of Yahuwah by way of his son for that opportunity. Rejoice in any understanding and wisdom that he's imparted, any strength that he's maintained with you, any adversity that he's delivered you from, whether it was in the past, whether it was recently. You know, give thanks for the things that he's done. Give thanks for the things that he hasn't done. You know what I'm saying? Because the things that he hasn't done may have very well have destroyed you. You know, give thanks to him while you're in adversity. Give thanks to him when you're not. But in all things and in all ways, just give thanks to Yahuwah because he's worthy of it. Nevertheless, 51, verse 41. How was Shishak taken? How was the praise of the whole earth surprised? Remember, Shishak is a Babylonian deity. How has Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? The sea has come up upon Babylon. She is covered with the multitude of waves thereof. Remember, seas is people. Her cities are a desolation, a dry land and a wilderness, a land where no man dwell, neither do the Son of Man pass thereby. And I will punish Baal in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he has swallowed up. The nation shall not flow together anymore unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. So when you look at whom he has swallowed up, he swallowed up the people. Let's take a look at something, right? Daniel chapter 2. Take a look at something. I can work that in. It's 10:55, but it's okay. Because y'all willing, we got time. We got time. Now, of course, here in Daniel chapter 2, let me pick this up in about verse 10. Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. No one can interpret the dream. Now, I heard a brother talking about this the other day, and this is a true story. There's a reason why people like to mingle. You know, you got stuff like Chris Long. The people like to mix and mingle things. Remember, Yahuwah told you not to do things like to mix and mingle because it causes confusion. And when he's talking about causing confusion, he's talking about disorder. Hold on. See, a lot of people like to talk about those things. Don't like to talk about those things because a lot of people like disorder. Specifically, the powers that be, they like disorder because it causes them and it gives them the ability to rule. Let's take ourselves over here because I want to use some of the words for confusion. So I want y'all to come over here to Leviticus 18 and 23. And of course, this is an extreme thing that we're looking at in Leviticus 18:23. But we want to use the word for confusion. We'll pick it up at verse 19. And then go from there. See, I'm going to tell you how in regards to certain things like this here, because when I used to see these memes like this here, I never understood what they meant because that was something that I had never thought about doing in my lifetime. It says, you shall not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness as long as she is put apart for her uncleanliness. So when I used to see dudes post that meme with the towel on the bed and what this meant, I had no idea the first time I seen that had to do with a man having sex with a woman on her cycle. Because it had never crossed my mind, even without the word, to participate in something so vile and disgusting. Do you know what I'm saying? Ain't that much horny in the world. You know what I'm talking about? It's just not that serious. It's just not that serious. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to do that bad. That is disgusting. You know what I'm talking about? And people do it with pride. Do it with pride. You know you got to do it with pride. The Pope means about it. Red light ain't never stopped nothing. All this stuff that people say, even if whether they know that that's in the word or not, it's just utter vile. And people cool with it. Cool with it and promote it. And it also shows you the base level of any woman who would allow a man to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like your level of thinking and your self-worth has to be right out the window to allow someone to convince you to do something of that nature. We already know the man low level for participating, for even initiating, for even thinking. That means you can't even control your urges. And that's sad. Nevertheless, he said, moreover, you shall not lie carnally with your neighbor's wife to defile yourself with her. You shall not let any of your seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shall you profane or make common or defile the name of your Elohim. I am Yahuwah. You shall not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. And you shall not lie down with any beast to defile yourself, neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. I can remember being a young man and them little white kids used to have their little porno books and porno talking about them women laying with animals, and I just didn't understand. One, now when you look at confusion, the word is taval that is used here. And it's also used in Leviticus 20 and 12. If a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall be surely put to death. They have wrought confusion. It's a perversion and sexual sin or a violation of nature or divine order. So you have Tau, you have Ba, and you have Lamad. So when you just sit back and you look at this confusion or this violation, this is not the teaching of the covenant of this household. So we don't operate that way. So when we look at getting things to mingle for confusion, it's to get you to operate outside the covenant teachings of the house of Yahuwah. This is why he's not an author of confusion, because he doesn't author teachings outside of the structure of his household. The way of Kadash is the way of his household, and he don't operate in nothing outside other than that. This is why he say to get niggas who operate disorder and confusion from among you. That's why he want them gone. That's why he got Cain out of there. That's why Korah got out of there. And that's why Balaam got chastised. If you hearken to what we remember, what we read in the Epistle of Jude. And it's what Babylon is doing. Remember, it says that we read a long time ago and reiterated in our course of looking at Babylon in Daniel 11 and 31, that this man would make intelligence with the people who have forsook the Kadash covenant. So he's teaching you a covenant that is not of this household. This is why Babylon is the whore. It's why she's working confusion. She's teaching another covenant that is not of this household. It is not of the house of Yahuwah. See, come over to Psalms 118, man. The thing that I say to y'all when we get finished, this is why I say it, because it come out of the text. Let me make sure a minute. Right here, Psalms 118, verse 24. He says, this is the day which Yahuwah have made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Save now, I beseech you, O Yahuwah. O Yahuwah, I beseech you, send now prosperity. Baruch be he that come in the name of Yahuwah. We have baruched you out of the house of Yahuwah. See, blessings come from the house of Yahuwah. And who is the house of Yahuwah? Well, that's Yahushua HaMashiach. He's the temple made without hands. No, he doesn't dwell in temples made with hands. Doesn't dwell in bots made with hands. So when you sit back and you look at it, there's a blessing that come out of Yahushua, out of that house. And out of that house is a covenant, because what was inside that house? But the Ark of the Covenant wasn't nothing in it but the two tables of stone. And the teaching come forth from the house. How do we know the teaching come forth from the house? Malachi chapter 4. Malachi 4 and 1. And that's still going to work in some little Babylon talk. Because we definitely got to get back to our journey down Proverbs. If I can get to Malachi, we might can make a move. It's not Malachi, it's Micah. My apologies. Micah 4 and 1. That's my apology. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahuwah shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Remember what it said, right? That Babylon has swallowed up the people. But now the people be spit out of Babylon, and people will flow into the house of Yahuwah. Many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah, and to the house of the Elohim of Jacob. And he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the Torah shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. And nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any More. So when you sit around and you sit back and look at it, what comes out the house of Yahuwah? But the teachings of the covenant come up out the house of Yahuwah. So that's why when you sit, that's what you see when you see the tabal, a spelling of the word for confusion, because Yahuwah doesn't operate in confusion. Now, hold on, there's another word for confusion. Let's see what that one is. Especially since we're talking about Babylon, and that's what Babylon operates in, is confusion. Perverting the way of Yahuwah. Let's look at this 1 Samuel 20 and 30. Verse 28 is where we shall begin. 1 Samuel 20 and 28. And this still a tie into what we're discussing. Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. He said, let me go, I pray you, for our family have a sacrifice in the city, and my brother, he have commanded me to be there now. This is when David is not present on new moon, and Saul is asking where he's at. Now, if I found favor in your eyes, let me get away, I pray you, and see my brethren. Therefore, he came not unto the king's table. Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan. He said unto me, you son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own confusion and unto the confusion of your mother's nakedness? But don't get it twisted. The beast's going to look at you in the same fashion that you have chosen the son of Jesse, man of the house of David, Yahushua HaMashiach, the son of the living Elohim, to your own confusion. The word for confusion there is bosheth. It means shame. It means shame. So we see that confusion is either going to be literal confusion, or it means that you bring shame to yourself, which would mean a reproach or a dishonor. Hold on one second, y'all. And usually when you see that confusion used in most places, it's for shame. You're shaming yourself. And you don't want to shame yourself. We've been doing that long enough. We've been doing that long enough. And that's how they're going to come at you to make you feel about rolling with Yahuwah, that you confusing or you bringing shame to yourself. But you bringing honor to yourself. Remember what Peter told you. He said on your part, he's evil spoken of. But in reality, he's being esteemed by your suffering. And you have to be willing to take that. Now, confusion is also used in another place, and it means for the same thing, a reproach and dishonor. Nevertheless, back to Jeremiah 51. 51 and 45. This was the point. We looked at this a little bit on Wednesday. And went through that. And this was a part of it, but we never got to it. My people, go you out the midst of her and deliver you every man his soul from the fierce anger of Yahuwah. He's telling you to get up out of Babylon before he strikes. And you're going to know, remember we talked about it last week, you're going to know when he strikes because he's going to warn you before he do it. Because that's the mercy of Yahuwah. Yahuwah just don't strike. Yahuwah just don't strike. Yahuwah warns before he strikes. There's a warning. Remember, the text tell you that pride comes before destruction. But Yahuwah is a merciful Elohim. Before he smashed Nineveh, he warned them, and then people repented. Egypt was warned. Jerusalem was warned. He told you he sent prophets B times, rising up early and sending them because he had compassion on the dwelling place of his people. Yahuwah is merciful. Yahuwah is just not going to pop up and say, aha, I'm going to kill you niggas. No. He doesn't do that. You may operate that way. And when I say you, I'm meaning man. But Elohim does not operate that way. Yahuwah will warn you first. He will give you opportunity to repent and to remove yourself from that situation. If you choose not to extricate yourself from iniquity and ungodliness, then you will perish in it. Don't let these people fool you and think y'all coming out of nowhere just to kill and crash people. He's going to send men to warn. You will be warned. Because you're not going to be able to come in front of him and say that you weren't given fair warning, because then that would be unjust on his part, and he would have no duty other than to forgive you and to receive you, because he's a just Elohim, and he works righteousness. he's an Elohim with judgment, and he will never let wrong judgment proceed from him. You have to know that. You know your Elohim, you'll know this. See, a lot of people don't know their Elohim. That's why they say the stuff that they say. Any of y'all ever read of Yahuwah smashing somebody without warning them first? Who y'all know of Yahuwah smashed that they didn't get a warning from his word before he did it? I know not of any. I don't know of any. Cain got a warning. Say if you do well, you'll be accepted. But if not, sin lie at the door. And he went and killed his brother right after that. That ain't a warning. He came to Amalek in a dream to tell him, don't you touch that woman. He said, well, I did that in integrity in my heart. He said, I know you did. That's why I'm coming to tell you. He just wasn't going to crash that man and not warn him first. Now, if he would have went and laid with Sarah after that, oh, you deserve to die. Because now I done told you. Y'all know before he kicked us out the land and let Babylon and Assyria do you dirty and let these Gentiles carry your black behind up out of Jerusalem in 70 AD, you was warned. You weren't warned? Before the king of Syria got crashed for running his mouth for blaspheming during the times of Hezekiah, he was warned. We know the Egyptians were warned. They got 10 plagues to give them a warning. But see, people don't want to hear that. Yahuwah just saying, before Babylon get crashed, number one, you're going to know when Babylon is instituted. Let that be known. And then number two, you don't know when he's going to get ready to crash it because there's going to be warnings. There will be people standing up, warning, preaching, and standing upon that. And then just like he said in Revelation 14, just like with them two witnesses, oh, you're going to know. You're going to know to get up out of Babylon now. But let's keep continuing. He said, lest your heart faint and you fear for rumor. There shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year and shall come in another year. And another year shall come a rumor and violence in the land and ruler against ruler. And we did get to that on Wednesday. That goes into Matthew 24. Verse 47. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babylon. And the whole land shall be confounded. And all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then Shamahim and Arath and all that is therein shall sing for Babylon, for the spoiler shall come unto her from the north, saith Yahuwah. Now look at that, right? And we read about that in Revelation. He say, sing. But look at the key thing, right? As Babylon has caused the slain of Yasharal to fall, so at Babylon shall fall all the slain of the earth. Well, how is that going to occur that Babylon has caused the slain of Yasharal to fall? Well, let's take a little look in Daniel chapter 2. I got time. I had to get straight to the point on Daniel 2, and then y'all willing, we'll have to come back. Then from Daniel 2 to Daniel 7. Daniel chapter 2. Can I even use Daniel chapter 2 for what I want to do? Yeah, I do, but I really want to come back to that. Because we're going to have to deal with that when we deal with Daniel 11 in a little bit more detail and just use them both together. Daniel 7. 7 and 21. Remember what we read, right? We read earlier, don't be scared of him that can kill you. Be scared of him that can kill you and send a soul to hell. Remember, he said that there'd be a tribulation that had never been seen and that no flesh would be saved except for the elect. So look what he said. I beheld the same horn make war with the saints and prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came and the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Remember verse 25, he said they'll wear out the saints of the Most High. But I want you to come over here to Revelation 7. Because when you look at this slaying of Yasharal, a lot of you going to die for the word. So because they wanted to kill you for the word in Babylon, for standing for Yahuwah, by Hashem Yahushua, he going to kill all them. See, you got to, just like we read in Psalm, he's going to avenge the blood of his servants. See, you have to know that and trust in Yahuwah to know that that's what he going to do. See, a lot of people don't trust in Yahuwah, so they don't believe that that's what he going to do. That's why they ain't willing to die for it. That's why he told them two men who was up under the altar, who was killed for the witness of Yahushua, he gave them white robe, told them rest for a little season. He said, to the rest of your brethren be killed as you was. That's what he told them. But don't nobody want to hear that. I don't want to rest for a little season. I don't want to do that. That doesn't appeal to me. I'm trying to remember what that verse said, and I know I'm looking right at it. Yeah, right there, verse 10. How long will you avenge the blood of them that dwell on the earth? Saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Elohim and the testimony that they held, and white robes were given every one of them, that they should rest for a little season until their fellow servants and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. You need to already be prepared for that. That's why he told you, don't fear the revilings of men, nor the reproaches of men. Those of you who know righteousness and whose Torah is in his heart. Remember, he say, blessed are the dead that die in the Lord. Their works do follow them. Revelation chapter 7, all right? What did he tell you about verse 12? Well, verse 13. One of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes? Where come they? I said unto him, sir, you know. He said unto me, these are they that came out of great tribulation and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. They were willing to die for it. Remember, he said they overcame the beast and loved not their own lives. Now that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the testimony which they held, and they didn't love their lives even unto death. Remember, his life is going to lose it. He that hates his life is going to gain it. You can't try to stay the same and expect to get a full reward. You have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice your life the same way Yahushua sacrificed his life, and he'll give you life. You got to give up life to get life. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. Then he'll renew you. Like we kind of read in Psalm 104. Then he'll renew you. He ain't going to renew you if you ain't willing to go. That's why when he turned his face from people, they have fear. They have complete and utter fear. See, come over here to Isaiah 48, because I mentioned ain't no peace for the wicked. And I know I had my intentions on working this Isaiah 48 in fully. But y'all willing, we'll have to save it. Because there's some Babylon talking here too. This dirty hoe, she everywhere. Because she's a dirty hoe. She ain't nothing. You know what I mean? She going to get what she deserved. Verse 12. Isaiah 48 and 12. Hearken unto me, O Jacob, O Yasharal. My call, I am he. I am the first, I also am the last. You know, that's how it's mentioned about Hamashiach in Revelation. My hand also laid the foundation of the earth. My right hand has spanned Shamahim. When I call unto them, they stand up together. Pause. Now, synopsis, quickly. Y'all already know. Right hand, span Shamahim. He said the world was made by him. Say the beginning with the word, and the word was Elohim, and the word was with Elohim, and all things were made by him. You understand? When he tell you, when he called together, I call unto them, they stand up together. Well, we already talked about that. He'll come back with a shout. He going to call, and the dead of Mashiach, they going to rise first. You're going to stand together with him in one body, one immersion, one faith, one ruach. That's it. Ain't but one way to do this, man. And it's through the Son. Ain't no other way to do this. All the other stuff is ancillary. You know what I'm saying? That's just stuff niggas doing. And it's cool. But it ain't but one way, man. Ain't but one faith, man. That's it. Ain't but one Ruach. Yahuwah Ruach ain't got no schism. It ain't divided. Yahuwah is not divided. Yahuwah is one. That's what Torah say. That's what Yahuwah say. Let that be known. All you assemble yourselves and hear which among them have declared these things. Yahuwah have loved him. He will do his pleasure on Babylon, and his arm shall be on the Chaldeans. If his arm on the Chaldeans, he talking about Yahushua on Babylon. Y'all already know this. We've established this matter. I have spoken. Yea, I have called him. I have brought him. I shall make his way prosperous. Come you near unto me. Hear you this. I have not spoken in secret. Remember what Yahushua said in John 18? I said everything in the open. In John 7, they told him, go show yourself. Don't no man do nothing in the dark. He do things that he might be seen and heard and known. He said, I have not spoken in secret from the beginning, from the time that it was, there am I. And now Yahuwah Elohim and his Ruach have sent me. Thus saith Yahuwah your Redeemer, the Kadash one of Yasharal. I am Yahuwah your Elohim, which teach you the prophet, which leads you by the way that you should go. That man said he teach you to your gain and he leads you in the way that you ought to go. But see, we don't want to go that way. And we don't feel like it's gain in what he teaching. Oh, that you hearken to my commandments, then had your shalom been as a river, and your righteousness as waves of the sea. Your seed also had been as the sand, and the offspring of your bowels like the gravel thereof. His name should not be cut off nor destroyed from before me. See, if you hearken to what he said, then that's how your name in the book of life, and then you won't be dying twice. Go you forth of Babylon, flee you from the Chaldeans, with the voice of singing, declare you. Tell this, utter it, even to the end of the earth. Say you Yahuwah have redeemed his servant Jacob. They thirsted not when he led them through the deserts, and he caused the waters to flow out of the rock for them. He claimed the rock also, and the waters gushed out. There Yahuwah unto the wicked. Well, why ain't no shalom to the wicked? Because we done read. He said everybody who took that mark ain't gonna have no rest day or night. But then we have to think of another thing. Why is he telling you about waters in the desert and waters coming out of rocks? Like he did when you came up out of Egypt. Because if you remember the book of Revelation, and we read that as well, he dried up all the seas. He dried up all the seas. Do you remember? Let's look in case you don't remember. Revelation 8. And who is the rock of which he gonna cause water to gush out of? You already know from 1 Corinthians 10 that rock is Mashiach. Say your fathers drunk the same spiritual drink. That spiritual